In the summer of 1994, a family vanished without a trace. A vibrant refugee family, having escaped the turmoil of their homeland, was hoping for a brighter future in a new country. They were last seen driving into the desert, their destination unknown. What began as a hopeful journey quickly turned into a haunting mystery, as days turned into weeks, and weeks into years without any sign of their whereabouts. The community searched tirelessly, yet the silence remained deafening. Their loved ones were left with nothing but heartache and unanswered questions. For 20 long years, their absence cast a shadow over the hearts of those who knew them. But then, in a twist that no one could have anticipated, the story took a startling turn. In a remote area, once submerged beneath the waters of a vast lake, a pair of weathered suitcases surfaced, revealing remnants of a life abruptly abandoned. This unexpected discovery would reignite a flame of hope, bringing the case back into the light. The suitcases belonged to the Reyes family, a mother, a father, and their 3 children. Their dream of a new life had been shattered, and with it, the dreams of those who loved them. Among the clothing and personal belongings, investigators found clues that hinted at a darker narrative than anyone had imagined. Enter Maria Reyes, the eldest daughter, who at the time of her family's disappearance was just a teenager. Now, 2 decades later, she is a determined woman on a quest for the truth about what happened to her family. For years, Maria held on to the hope that they would be found, that they were still alive somewhere fighting to return to her. But after the suitcases surfaced, the hope morphed into a need for answers. As Maria opened the suitcases, she uncovered pieces of her family's life that she had long thought lost. Each item told a story: a photograph of a birthday celebration, a worn teddy bear, a journal filled with dreams. But alongside the nostalgia was an unsettling feeling, a realization that something was deeply amiss. What had truly happened to her family? With each passing day, Maria faced the painful truth that authorities had long since closed the case. To them, the Reyes family was another statistic in a world filled with unsolved mysteries. But for Maria, they were more than just a cold case. They were her flesh and blood. Determined to uncover the truth, she began her own investigation, sifting through old records, reaching out to witnesses and piecing together a timeline that had been discarded as years faded into memory. However, skepticism met her at every turn. Law enforcement officials who had once been hopeful now viewed her as a ghost from the past, a reminder of an unresolved case they had long moved on from. With each dismissal, Maria's resolve only strengthened. She refused to let her family's story be buried beneath the sands of time. But as she dug deeper, Maria uncovered a web of secrets that threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew. What she discovered was far more complex than she could have ever imagined. The Reyes family's disappearance was not simply a case of misfortune. It was intertwined with a larger narrative, a tapestry of lies, betrayal, and hidden lives. The deeper Maria ventured into her investigation, the more she realized that there were those who would go to great lengths to keep the truth buried. Unbeknownst to her, she was not just searching for her family. She was about to unearth a chilling story of deception that reached far beyond her own heartbreak. As she began to connect the dots, Maria faced a difficult choice: to pursue the truth and risk everything, or to retreat into the shadows of her past, leaving the unanswered questions behind. But the heart of a daughter is relentless, and Maria was prepared to confront whatever darkness lay ahead in her quest for justice. The truth is never simple, and for Maria Reyes, it would be a journey fraught with danger. The closer she got to the heart of the mystery, the more she realized that her family's disappearance was only the beginning of a much larger story. Join us as we peel back the layers of this tragic tale, exploring the unthinkable disappearance of an entire family and the shocking revelations that would emerge 20 years later. In the search for answers, Maria Reyes was not just seeking closure. She was embarking on a path that would take her into the depths of despair and ultimately lead to the light of truth. What happened to the Reyes family? What secrets lay hidden in those suitcases? This is the beginning of a journey that seeks to illuminate the shadows where hope and despair collide, bringing to light the memories of a family that refused to be forgotten. Maria knew that the discovery of the suitcases was just the tip of the iceberg. As she meticulously examined each item, her heart raced with the weight of a decade's worth of unanswered questions. The clothes, worn and faded, told a story of a family that had once been vibrant and full of life. But now they were relics of a past that felt both haunting and distant. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Maria began to dig deeper into the circumstances surrounding her family's disappearance. She pored over police reports, piecing together fragments of information that had long been buried in a dusty archive. Each page turned was a step closer to the truth, yet each revelation brought with it the specter of doubt. Had the authorities overlooked vital clues in their initial investigation, or was something more sinister at play? As she reached out to old friends and distant relatives, Maria encountered an unexpected wall of silence. Many were reluctant to speak, their eyes clouded with fear or uncertainty. She could sense their apprehension, the palpable tension in the air as they recalled the Reyes family's last moments. Whispers of a secret life began to surface, hints of a shadowy figure who had been intertwined with her family's fate. A name emerged, Javier, a man whose connection to the Reyes family remained obscured by time and mistrust. Determined to uncover the truth, Maria sought out anyone who might have known him. The answers she received were riddled with contradictions. Some described Javier as a charming, charismatic figure, while others spoke of a darker, more menacing side. It became evident that her family's life was more complicated than she had ever imagined. The deeper she delved, the more unsettling her discoveries became. Maria stumbled upon a photograph of her father and Javier together, taken just weeks before their disappearance. The image, though faded, revealed an unsettling camaraderie that made her stomach churn. What had her father been involved in? What secrets had they shared? With each passing day, Maria felt the weight of the investigation pressing down on her. She reached out to local journalists, hoping to garner media attention that might shed light on her family's case. Yet, even as articles began to surface, Maria found herself met with skepticism from law enforcement, who had long deemed the case closed. Just when she thought the walls were closing in, a breakthrough came unexpectedly. A cryptic message arrived in her inbox, unsigned but filled with chilling details about her family's last known movements. The sender claimed to have information that could change everything, but the message was laced with a warning. Be careful. Some truths are best left buried. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. Who was this mysterious informant, and what dangers lay ahead? As she prepared to follow this lead, the shadows of the past loomed larger than ever. The investigation had turned into a perilous game of cat and mouse where every step forward might lead her deeper into a web of deceit. With newfound resolve, Maria steeled herself for what was to come. The truth awaited, hidden beneath layers of secrecy and lies, and she was ready to confront it, no matter the cost. But as she ventured further into the darkness, one question haunted her. How far would someone go to keep the truth from surfacing? The answer was looming, and it was only a matter of time before the pieces began to fall into place. Maria's heart raced as she reread the cryptic message, each word echoing in her mind. She knew she had to act quickly, but uncertainty gnawed at her. Trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. She spent hours poring over the details, piecing together fragments of information that might lead her to the truth. The mysterious informant had mentioned a local diner, an unassuming place where whispers of the past still lingered among the patrons. Determined, Maria headed to the diner, a small establishment with faded signage and a reputation for its homemade pies. As she entered, the familiar scent of coffee mixed with baked goods enveloped her, but the warmth of the place felt incongruous with the coldness gnawing at her heart. She approached the counter, where an elderly waitress greeted her with a cautious smile. Maria introduced herself, mentioning the disappearance of her family and the message she had received. The waitress's expression shifted, her eyes widening slightly before she glanced around, as if worried about being overheard. "You're not the first to ask about them," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. "But be careful. People don't like to talk about what happened back then." Fueled by a mixture of hope and dread, Maria pressed for more information. The waitress hesitated, then reluctantly shared a name, someone who had frequented the diner during the time her family disappeared. He came in often, always alone, but there was something about him. A darkness, she said, her gaze drifting to the window. You should tread lightly. With a name in hand, Maria returned home to dig deeper. Late into the night, she searched online records, connecting the dots of the past. The name belonged to a man with a troubled history, a series of run-ins with the law, and an unsettling connection to a nearby community. But as she unearthed more information, she felt a sense of dread wash over her. Each discovery led her further into a labyrinth of lies, where every piece of evidence seemed to point to a darker reality than she had ever imagined. The man had once been a person of interest in several missing persons cases, and it was not long before Maria found a chilling photograph, a faded image of her family standing next to a stranger, the same man from the diner. A knot formed in her stomach. The implications were staggering, and the warning from the informant echoed loudly in her mind. Could he have been involved in her family's disappearance? Her thoughts raced as she realized that this man might hold the key to uncovering the truth, but confronting him could be dangerous. Maria understood that she was now standing at a crossroads. She could either retreat, allowing the past to remain buried, or she could push forward, risking everything to confront the man who may know what happened to her family. The choice weighed heavily on her, but deep down, she knew she could not walk away. With a surge of determination, she began to formulate a plan to find him. As the night deepened, so did her resolve. The truth was within her grasp, but so were the shadows of danger and deceit. With every passing hour, the stakes grew higher, and time was slipping away. The confrontation loomed, and Maria could feel the tension in the air, thick with the promise of revelations that could shatter everything she thought she knew. Determined to find this mysterious man, Maria spent countless hours researching online. She combed through social media profiles, news articles, and public records. Each click and scroll brought her closer to the truth, but also deeper into a web of uncertainty. The figure from the photograph seemed to slip further away with every lead that led to a dead end. Maria knew she needed a more direct approach. She reached out to the diner where the photo was taken, hoping someone might remember the man. After a series of phone calls, she found a former waitress who had worked there during the summer of her family's disappearance. The waitress, now elderly and wary, hesitated before sharing what she remembered. She spoke of a man who frequented the diner, often alone, who had a strange aura about him, a quiet intensity that made people uneasy. Some folks said he was trouble, she recalled, her voice trembling. He always seemed to be watching. Maria's heart raced. If this man had been lurking in their lives, how had they not seen it? As she pressed the waitress for more details, she learned the man had a name that echoed through the years like a distant thunderclap. Armed with this new information, Maria scoured the internet once more, piecing together fragments of the man's life. His name led her to a small town not far from where her family had vanished. Reports indicated he had been involved in various petty crimes, but nothing that suggested he was capable of something as heinous as kidnapping. Still, the deeper she dug, the more unsettling connections began to surface. An old news article revealed that the man had been a suspect in several missing person cases over the years, but without enough evidence to charge him. Each story felt like a thread weaving into the tapestry of her family's fate. Days turned into a blur as Maria prepared herself for the confrontation. She gathered every scrap of evidence, noting inconsistencies in the man's past, determined to confront him with her findings. But as she honed in on his last known whereabouts, a chill ran down her spine. What if he was still involved in something more sinister? What if he had a darker agenda that extended beyond her family? The thought consumed her. As she drove to the small town, the landscape transformed, becoming eerily familiar. Memories flooded back, vague recollections of the life her family had built before it all shattered. Each mile felt heavy with expectation, dread building within her. She arrived at dusk, the fading light casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. Maria parked her car, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She could either expose the man who might be tied to her family's fate, or confront a monster she wasn't sure she was ready to face. With her phone in hand, she scoured the street for the address she had found. The air was thick with tension, and the silence around her felt alive, pulsating with the weight of the past. As she approached the house, her breath hitched in her throat. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, or had she stepped into a trap? The door loomed before her, a threshold into the unknown. She could feel the specter of her family pressing against her, urging her forward. Taking a deep breath, Maria raised her hand and knocked. Each rap against the door echoed like a heartbeat, and as the door creaked open, a pair of eyes peered out, dark, calculating, and all too familiar. In that moment, everything she had uncovered could either lead her to answers or plunge her deeper into a nightmare. The truth was closer than ever, but it loomed ahead, shrouded in shadow. The door opened wider, revealing a man who seemed to recognize her instantly. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly masked by an unsettling calm. It was Carlos, her family's old neighbor, a figure from her childhood memories, now wrapped in layers of secrecy. His demeanor was cool, almost too composed, as if he had been expecting her. "Maria," he said, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of something darker. "What brings you here after all these years?" Maria struggled to maintain her composure. This was the man who had lived next door, the one who had been in the neighborhood when her family vanished without a trace. She took a step closer, the weight of her years of searching pressing down on her shoulders. "I found something that connects you to my family's disappearance." His eyes narrowed slightly. A flash of recognition mingled with apprehension. "A lot of things happened back then. You should let the past stay buried." Ignoring his warning, Maria pressed on. "I have their suitcases. They were found in a dry lake, and I know they were here, in this neighborhood. You must know something." For a moment, silence hung in the air like a suspended breath. Carlos glanced over his shoulder as if assessing the safety of the conversation. "You shouldn't dig into what you don't understand, Maria. Some truths are best left undiscovered." The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, a chill running down her spine. She had heard the warnings before, but she had never felt so close to the truth. "What do you know, Carlos? What happened to my family?" With a sharp intake of breath, Carlos hesitated, and Maria seized the moment. "Please, I'm not here to threaten you. I just want answers. If you know anything—" He interrupted her, his voice lowering conspiratorially. "You think you can just come back and demand answers? There are forces at play here that you don't comprehend. It's bigger than you, bigger than me." Maria felt a rush of anger and desperation. "My family is missing. They deserve justice. I deserve to know what happened to them." The tension escalated as Carlos stepped closer, his gaze piercing into hers. "Justice? What you seek could tear apart the very fabric of this community. Do you want that?" Her heart raced as she realized the implications of his words. What had her family been involved in? What secrets had been buried alongside their disappearance? She had stumbled upon something much darker than she had anticipated. "Tell me," she demanded, her voice trembling with intensity. Carlos hesitated again, his eyes darting to the street before locking back onto hers. "Fine. But you must understand, Maria, that knowing the truth comes at a price. Meet me tonight at the old warehouse by the docks. There's something you need to see." A whirlwind of emotions surged within her, fear, hope, and a gnawing sense of foreboding. But she knew she had no choice. This was the lead she had been waiting for, and she couldn't turn back now. As she turned to leave, Carlos called after her, his voice a haunting echo. "Be careful, Maria. Some things are meant to stay hidden." The weight of his warning hung heavy in the air as Maria walked away, her mind racing. What awaited her at the warehouse? Would it be the answers she desperately sought? Or would it plunge her deeper into a web of deception and danger? The night loomed ahead, promising revelations and peril in equal measure. As night fell, Maria's heart pounded in her chest. The old warehouse by the docks loomed ahead, its silhouette dark and foreboding against the moonlit sky. She stepped inside, the door creaking ominously behind her. The air was thick with the scent of salt and rust, and every shadow felt like a secret waiting to be unearthed. Carlos stood at the far end, his figure partially obscured by the dim light. He motioned for her to approach, his face a mask of urgency. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What did you want to show me?" Maria asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He stepped aside, revealing a large, weathered crate. "Open it!" With trembling hands, Maria pried the crate open. Inside lay a collection of faded photographs, documents, and what appeared to be personal belongings. Among them was a small locket, its surface tarnished with age. As she sifted through the contents, a photograph caught her eye. Her family smiling together at a park, a day that seemed filled with joy and normalcy. But then, something shifted within her. A face emerged from the shadows of another photograph, a man she had never seen before. His presence felt unsettling, as if he had been watching them from the periphery of their lives. "Who is this?" she asked, holding the photo up for Carlos to see. "That's the twist," he said, his voice low. "He's connected to your family's disappearance. A man named Victor Reyes. He was involved in something far more sinister than anyone realized." Maria's heart sank. "What do you mean?" "Victor was a part of a gang that trafficked stolen art and artifacts. Your family stumbled upon something they shouldn't have. They knew too much, and it cost them everything." As the weight of this revelation settled in, Maria felt a rush of emotions, rage, sorrow, and a flicker of hope. So they were taken because of this man? Carlos nodded gravely. "That's just the beginning. There are whispers of a cover-up. People in power may have been involved in silencing them." Maria's mind raced. The truth was unraveling, but it was tangled in a web of betrayal and danger. "What do I do now?" Carlos looked at her intently. "We need to find out what happened to Victor. He may hold the key to finding your family. But Maria, tread carefully. Those involved will do anything to protect their secrets." As she stood in the shadows of the warehouse, Maria felt the weight of her family's history pressing down upon her. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. There was no turning back now. She was on the brink of uncovering a dark conspiracy that threatened to swallow her whole. Would she find the justice she sought, or become another victim in this dangerous game? The clock was ticking, and with each passing moment the shadows grew darker. Maria knew that she had to act fast. With Carlos by her side, she began to dig deeper into Victor's life. Late nights became her new reality, poring over old records, newspaper articles, and any scrap of information that could lead her closer to the truth. Each piece she uncovered painted a picture of Victor as a man who had not just vanished, but had been erased. As she delved into his past, Maria discovered that Victor had been a community leader, a voice for those who felt powerless. He had fought against injustices that plagued their neighborhood, and with each victory he had made more enemies. The more Maria learned, the more she understood the risks he had taken. He had potentially crossed paths with dangerous individuals, people who valued power over humanity. Days turned into weeks, and the walls began to close in on her. Maria faced skepticism from the authorities, who regarded her investigation as an obsession rather than a pursuit of truth. "Let it go, it's been 20 years, they would say dismissively, urging her to accept that her family was gone. But Maria refused to be silenced. In a small, dimly lit office, she stumbled across an obscure mention of a meeting that Victor had attended shortly before his disappearance. The meeting was tied to a local organization that had purportedly been involved in human trafficking, a chilling notion that sent shivers down her spine. Could it be possible that her family had been victims of something far more sinister than she had ever imagined? Determined, Maria reached out to former members of the organization, hoping to find someone willing to speak. After several days of searching, she finally made contact with a woman named Elena, who claimed to have left the group years ago. Elena's voice trembled as she recounted the organization's inner workings and hinted at the secrets buried deep within its ranks. "They were planning something big," Elena said, her eyes darting around nervously. "Victor had caught wind of it. He was trying to expose them. They couldn't let that happen." With each revelation, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. Maria's heart raced as she realized the gravity of what she was uncovering. The truth was not only about her family, but about a network that extended far beyond the confines of their community. As Maria prepared to confront the people who had orchestrated her family's disappearance, she felt a growing sense of dread. What if the truth came at a cost? What if the closer she got, the more danger she invited into her life? The shadows that had loomed over her for so long were now beginning to close in again, and the stakes had never been higher. Every instinct told her to proceed with caution, but the thought of her family urged her onward. Armed with newfound knowledge and the courage she had mustered over the years, she was ready to confront the darkness that had haunted her life for far too long. But little did she know, the truth was about to reveal itself in a way she never expected, one that would turn her world upside down and challenge everything she thought she knew. As Maria gathered her thoughts and strategies, she decided to reach out to someone who had been a silent ally throughout her journey. The journalist who first reported on her family's disappearance 2 decades ago. His name was Alex, a seasoned investigator known for his relentless pursuit of truth. She dialed his number, her hands trembling slightly as she waited for him to pick up. When he answered, she could hear the surprise in his voice. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Maria dove straight into her findings, describing the suitcase discovery and the chilling connections she had unearthed. Alex listened intently, his journalistic instincts piqued. He agreed to meet her at a diner on the outskirts of town, a place where they could speak freely without prying eyes. As Maria drove through the familiar streets, memories of her family flooded her mind. The laughter, the warmth, the dreams that had been extinguished. At the diner, Maria and Alex sat in a booth, the hum of conversations and clinking cutlery providing a backdrop to their serious discussion. She shared every detail she had uncovered, from the names of individuals who had crossed her family's path to the shadowy network that now seemed to be at play. Alex's expression shifted from curiosity to concern as Maria revealed the potential danger lurking in the shadows. "You need to be careful, Maria. These people won't hesitate to protect their secrets," he warned, his voice low. Yet, Maria's resolve only strengthened. She had already lost so much. She wasn't about to back down now. Together, they started piecing together a plan to confront the individuals linked to her family's disappearance. They needed evidence, something that would not only bring the truth to light, but also provide a measure of safety. Days turned into weeks as they meticulously gathered information. They conducted interviews with old friends, family acquaintances, and anyone who might have had insight into the lives of her family before they vanished. Each conversation revealed more layers, more complexities, but also more danger. Then, one evening, as Maria scoured the internet for any new leads, she stumbled upon a cryptic forum discussing the very people she was investigating. It was filled with whispers about a secret exchange that had taken place years ago, involving not just her family but others who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. Her heart raced as she read through the messages, noting the names that appeared repeatedly. It was as if she had unearthed a hidden world, a dark underbelly that thrived on the exploitation of vulnerable individuals. Just then, a message caught her eye, one that hinted at a meeting planned for the following week. It was an opportunity, a chance to confront the very people who had shattered her life. But it also carried an undeniable risk. She could not go alone. Maria and Alex spent the next few days preparing for the encounter, formulating questions, and considering potential escape routes. The tension hung thick in the air as they reviewed every piece of evidence they had. Finally, the day arrived. As they approached the location, a rundown warehouse on the outskirts of town, Maria felt a familiar wave of dread wash over her. This was it, the moment she had worked so hard for. But as they prepared to step inside, a chilling realization settled over her. The closer they got to the truth, the more it felt like they were stepping into a trap. With every heartbeat echoing in her ears, Maria took a deep breath, knowing that there was no turning back. What awaited them inside would unravel not just the mystery of her family's disappearance, but also reveal a web of deceit that stretched into the very fabric of their community. As she grasped the door handle, her resolve solidified. She was ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. As Maria pushed open the heavy door, a creaking sound echoed through the empty space, reverberating off the cold, damp walls. The dim light from a single bulb flickered ominously, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. She and Alex stepped inside, their hearts pounding, nerves electrified by the weight of uncertainty. The warehouse was filled with remnants of the past, discarded crates, forgotten machinery, and a thick layer of dust that hinted at years of neglect. But lurking within this decay was a sense of purpose. This was a place where secrets may linger, where whispers of the vanished could be heard, if only one knew where to listen. Maria's eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for anything that might connect to her family's disappearance. The air was heavy with a mix of apprehension and determination. They moved cautiously, aware that they were not alone in this quest for the truth. Somewhere in the shadows, those who held the answers waited, concealed by layers of fear and deception. As they ventured deeper into the warehouse, a sudden noise, a scuffling sound, made them freeze in their tracks. Maria's breath caught in her throat as she turned to Alex. His eyes widened, reflecting the same mix of fear and anticipation she felt. They were on the brink of something monumental, and yet a sense of foreboding loomed over them. "Did you hear that?" Maria whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Alex nodded, his face pale. "We should be careful." Just then a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man, his face obscured by the low light. He stepped forward and Maria's heart raced. Could this be someone who knew what happened to her family? Or was he a threat sent to silence them? "Who are you?" Maria demanded, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. The man paused, sizing them up before answering. "I know why you're here, but you're digging in places you shouldn't." Maria felt a surge of adrenaline. "You know about my family. You know what happened." He remained silent, and in that silence Maria sensed the weight of his knowledge. This man was a key to unraveling the truth, but his hesitation hinted at danger. Would he help them, or were they stepping closer to peril? As the tension between them escalated, Maria recognized the stakes had just been raised. Whatever this man knew could either bring resolution to her family's mystery or plunge them deeper into the abyss of uncertainty. "Please," she implored, her voice raw with emotion. "We need to understand what happened to them. They deserve to be found." The man's expression softened for a moment before hardening again. "You're not ready for what you'll find," he replied cryptically. "But if you insist on knowing, you need to find the rest of the pieces first. There are things even the authorities don't see." With that, he turned abruptly, retreating back into the darkness, leaving Maria and Alex with more questions than answers. "What does he mean?" Alex asked, confusion etched on his face. "I don't know," Maria admitted, frustration creeping in. "But we can't let this go. If he knows something, we need to find him again." Determined, they began to scour the warehouse for any clues that could lead them back to him, or to more answers about the suitcases and the family that had vanished so long ago. Each corner they turned, every object they examined, felt like a step deeper into an unseen labyrinth of lies. But time was not on their side. The longer they spent searching, the more they felt the weight of unseen eyes upon them. They were drawing closer to the truth, but with each revelation the danger loomed larger. As they continued their search, an unsettling thought crossed Maria's mind. What if uncovering the truth meant exposing something far more sinister than she could ever have imagined? Would she be prepared for the darkness that lay ahead? The answer lingered on the tip of her tongue, but there was no turning back now. The truth was worth the risk, and she was resolved to confront whatever lay in the shadows. The hours turned into a blur as Alex and Maria sifted through the remnants of the warehouse, each item a potential key to unlocking the past. They found dusty old boxes filled with forgotten possessions, photographs faded by time, and scraps of paper that offered little more than cryptic messages. The air was heavy with anticipation, and with each passing moment, the sense of urgency intensified. Then, in a dimly lit corner, Maria stumbled upon an envelope. It was yellowed and brittle, as if it had been hidden away for decades. The name written on the front sent a shiver down her spine. The last name of the refugee family. With trembling hands, she opened it, revealing a series of letters filled with desperate pleas and accounts of fear and persecution. But it was the final letter that caught her breath. A note addressed to a mysterious contact, detailing plans for a meeting in the dead of night. What does this mean? Alex asked, peering over her shoulder. It means they were trying to escape. But escape to where? Maria pondered aloud, her mind racing with implications. And who was this contact? The discovery ignited a fire within them. They quickly made a plan to track down the location mentioned in the letter. It was a remote area, not far from where the family had last been seen. As they prepared to leave the warehouse, a creeping dread filled the pit of Maria's stomach. The closer they got to the truth, the more she felt the grip of something sinister tightening around them. Driving to the location, the landscape turned increasingly desolate, a stark reminder of the isolation the family must have felt in their final days. As they arrived, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the barren ground. They stepped out of the car, hearts pounding, and began to search the area. With each step, the silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of gravel underfoot. Maria's instincts screamed that they were not alone. She glanced at Alex, who shared her unease. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. Before she could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man, rugged and unkempt, his eyes darting nervously. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice low and threatening. Maria's heart raced. Was this the contact mentioned in the letter? Could he hold the answers they desperately sought? "We're looking for information about a refugee family that disappeared in 1994, she replied, trying to remain calm. The man's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition flashing across his face. "You shouldn't be here," he warned, taking a step back. "You have no idea what you're getting into." "What do you know?" Alex pressed, stepping forward, determination in his voice. Before the man could respond, a distant sound shattered the tension. A car approaching fast. Panic surged through Maria as the figure turned and bolted into the darkness, leaving them with more questions than answers. The car screeched to a halt, and two men stepped out, their demeanor menacing. "You're not supposed to be here," one of them said, his voice dripping with hostility. Maria and Alex exchanged a worried glance. They had ventured too far into a world they were not prepared to confront. "Get in the car now," the second man ordered, taking a step closer. It was a command, not a request. As the gravity of their situation settled in, Maria knew they were on the brink of a revelation that could unravel everything. But at what cost? The truth was within reach, yet the shadows of danger loomed ever closer. Would they have the courage to face what lay ahead? Maria's heart raced as she weighed their options. The men were a barrier between them and the truth, a truth she had sought for decades. The air was thick with tension, each second stretching into eternity. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "What do you know about my family?" The men exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. "You need to leave," one of them warned again, more insistent this time. "You're digging where you shouldn't." Maria's mind raced. These men were not just random strangers. They were protectors of something dark, something that connected to the disappearance of her family. "Why are you threatening us?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "What are you hiding?" "Enough," the second man barked, stepping closer menacingly. "You don't understand what you're involved in." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. It was clear now. They were not simply protecting a secret, but guarding against the consequences of that secret being uncovered. "Listen," Alex interjected, his voice rising. "If you know something, you have to tell us. We deserve to know what happened." The first man stepped forward, his expression softening ever so slightly. "You think you want the truth? You don't know what you're asking for." Maria's instincts screamed at her to back away, but she felt anchored by her purpose. "We've come too far to turn back now," she insisted. "You can't silence us." The second man scoffed, glancing back at the car. "You really think you're ready for this? You're in over your heads, and if you don't leave now, you might not get the chance to walk away." The reality of their situation settled in. These men weren't just intimidating figures. They were tied to a web of lies that had ensnared her family. The suitcase had led them here, but now it seemed like they had stumbled into a dangerous game. As the two men exchanged tense looks, the air crackled with unspoken threats. Just then, Maria's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from an unknown number, but one word caught her eye. "Run!" Panic surged through her. "We have to go, Alex," she whispered urgently. "Now!" But before they could turn away, the first man lunged forward, grabbing Alex by the arm. "You're not leaving until we talk." Maria felt a surge of desperation. This was the moment they had been fighting for, yet it felt perilously close to slipping through their fingers. "Let him go," she shouted, adrenaline fueling her voice. "We just want answers." In that charged moment, a decision loomed before them. Would they risk everything for the truth, or would fear dictate their next move? As the confrontation escalated, Maria knew they were nearing the heart of the mystery, one that promised to unveil dark secrets buried for far too long. But with danger surrounding them, the question remained: would the truth they sought free them, or would it bind them to a fate even darker than their deepest fears? In the ensuing confrontation, Maria stood her ground, her heart pounding as the truth she had long sought began to crystallize before her eyes. The men, their faces shrouded in shadows, were not mere bystanders. They were entangled in a web of deceit that had ensnared her sister years ago. As Alex managed to break free, the tension escalated, forcing the culprits to drop their facade. "You're in over your heads," one of the men sneered, but Maria felt an unfamiliar strength surge within her. This was not just about her sister anymore. It was about exposing the dark underbelly that had concealed the truth for far too long. With each revelation that spilled forth, the pieces fell into place. Maria learned of a secret life her sister had led, one marked by betrayal and manipulation, drawing her into a world that ultimately led to her disappearance. The realization hit hard. Her sister had been a victim of something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Determined to find justice, Maria and Alex contacted the authorities, armed with the evidence they had gathered. The truth was too big to be ignored. The men were confronted by law enforcement, their lies finally unraveling under the weight of the evidence and the relentless pursuit of justice. As the investigation took center stage again, Maria found herself grappling with a mix of emotions. The painful knowledge of her sister's struggles brought a wave of sorrow that was difficult to navigate. Yet, in the depths of her grief, there was also a profound sense of relief. The veil of uncertainty had been lifted, and now there was clarity where darkness once reigned. In the end, justice was served. Those responsible faced the consequences of their actions, and though the scars of loss would forever remain, Maria found solace in knowing that the truth had emerged from the shadows. This journey was not just about uncovering a mystery, it was a testament to the power of hope and resilience in the face of despair. It underscored the importance of never giving up, of seeking answers even when the road ahead seems insurmountable. As Maria looked to the horizon, she understood that while the pain of loss would always linger, the truth had set her free. She had reclaimed her sister's story and illuminated the darkness that had clouded their lives for far too long. In the end, the pursuit of truth can be a daunting path, but it is a journey worth taking. For every mystery solved, there lies a lesson in justice and a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness may be, the light of truth will always find a way to shine through. What will you do when faced with the shadows of the past? Will you seek the truth, or let it remain buried?